Hello, everybody. How you doing? Once again here, this is Brian Smith here coming to you from the Scale Up Project, an initiative, a financial empowerment initiative put on by the Multicultural and Diversity Project. It is a project to empower, educate the Black English-speaking community and basically everybody else on financial literacy and how you can put yourself in a better position to manage your finances, not for now, but also for the future, for the welfare of you and your family. This podcast is targeted towards seniors living in the communities, and this is the first episode. This is version 2 or episode 2. I have across from me, no stranger to the community. His name is Mr. Audley Coley. So, bienvenue, Audley.
Bonjour there, money. Brian Smith, thank you so much for having me. And just, great to be here.
All right. So, Audley, we're going to be talking about money and finances and all things connected with that. But once again, there are a lot of people who don't know who Audley Coley is. And just going to ask you a little about yourself, where you're from, and how did you end up here in Montreal? Very briefly, though. Very briefly.
Well, the best thing is to buy the book.
Okay,
right. There is a book out, and it'll give you a good rundown of who I am.
So you are an author then?
Well, the story, the journey of Audley Coley.
Okay, yes. Okay. So, plug the book. What's the name of the book?
The book is called Oddly Enough.
Oddly Enough.
You can soar above mental health. And the fact is, as I said, I have had major challenge with a bipolar manic depressive. And I feel great that I'm at this point where I can be of use to the community and just the world at large, because there's a lot of people suffering, and you're not alone. And it just seemed the timing is right. So the book is also available on Amazon. So if you go and plug in Oddly Enough, it'll come up. But just as a brief, I'm Jamaican. I was born in a place called Mandeville, Manchester, in Jamaica.
That's the countryside, right?
Well, it doesn't matter, okay?
Because a lot of people, when they say, the people living out
here we go.
And they're talking about Jamaica, they're going to say, Kingston.
But I figure everybody that left Jamaica that came from Kingston, there's nobody left in Jamaica.
Okay.
Right? Because, I am very proud to be a Jamaican, but I'm very proud to be from Manchester and Mandeville itself. Okay? But the fact is that my family migrated to Toronto. My mom, dad, and my brothers and sisters. And then my love of dance is what eventually brought me to Montreal. I studied in Toronto with Roland and Romaine, La Ballet Jazz. As I said, a quick trip, and then I ended up in New York. I did some studies at Alvin Ailey. It sounds very manic, yes. And then I ended up in a place called Frobisher Bay. So already I got your attention. So if you want to know more, get the book.
Get the book.
All right? But as I said, right now I'm in Montreal, and I'm teaching dance, and that's how I stay.
One quick question, because as I said, your parents, and they went to Toronto. And I ask everybody, specifically a lot of the elders, my parents and their friends, and was there ever any thought of your parents coming to Quebec, coming to Montreal? I mean, they went to Toronto. Did they just get settled there and was okay? Because, back in the day, there really wasn't that pressure with the whole language issue coming to Montreal. That Montreal was a nice place. The streets were clean, things like that. Some people came here and settled. Some people stayed in Toronto. What?
No, my family was always about Toronto. I mean, it was either... Because we missed the first ship that went to England. Okay. So it was like either England, the state, or Canada. Okay. So my mom came in, and she did her stint as a domestic, and then she spent 25 years at the Toronto General Hospital, and then she brought up my dad. So it was always about Toronto. I am the only one from the family that actually ended up in Quebec, and that's because of dance. but all my family stayed in Toronto.
Yeah, that whole domestic thing, because even with my parents too, like I said, my mother came up and then she sent for my father to come up afterwards, and people not really familiar with that, but that was the way to get, everybody wanted a better life. You say you're going to leave yard, you're going to leave Jamaica, but it always wasn't a bed of roses, but it was offered some opportunity for a better life. And even with the people working here, you still were even expected to send for somebody, whether it be a cousin, your husband, your wife, and bring them up,
Well, technically, in my family, like my mom, she just passed away in April, rest her soul. She brought up the whole family. Like, first of all, she came, she was the trailblazer, so she came, brought up my dad, and then my uncles and aunts. So literally, we were like the base. So they all came through Toronto. But the main thing, especially back in those days, like education was very expensive in Jamaica. And that was one of the main reasons, the opportunity that she came and, she worked as a domestic and then worked at the Toronto General for 25 years as a nurse's aide. But that's why, as I said, I'm so glad, because if it wasn't for my mom coming to Toronto and making that sacrifice, I would not have been here. And, I'm very grateful. And so I always feel right now that, giving back. But yeah, Toronto at the time was the spot, especially we have the largest, I think, population outside of Jamaica is in Ontario. Yeah.
Okay. Wow, it's really, really interesting, But even now, as I said, they say anywhere, any corner in the world, you always find a Jamaican there. You can go to New Zealand, Australia,
Russia. I know. I just saw somewhere where they're in Dubai, or there's a Jamaican restaurant that's kicking it.
Yeah.
So jerk to the world.
Jerk to the world. And even Audley, you're wearing is that the 50th? 50th?
No.
60th. Sorry, the 60th. 60th is Jamaica.
Yeah, last year.
Yeah, and just last week there was Jamaica Day. Jamaica Association of Montreal put on it was their 40th anniversary Jamaica Day. And we're talking about, here we're talking about money and finances, business, but the brand Jamaica, it's strong. People identify so much with Jamaican culture, whether now you could even go back to, everybody think Jamaica. You see, Bob Marley, Usain Bolt, but there's so many other, business people, other different resources. But why is this brand Jamaica? Why is it so strong?
Well, you know what? A lot of people, for, inquiring minds, we also have the #1 stock exchange in the world. Yeah. Like if you Google right now, you'll be shocked to see, people are always talking about outside investors, but it's very big to invest in Jamaica. I don't know if people have heard about Michael Lee Chin, okay, but Michael Lee Chin is a Jamaican who has done an amazing a lot of work, and his claim to fame is that his was working in Jamaica behind the counter with his family's business. Yeah. And so, as I said, I'm not going to pump Michael Lee Chin, he has enough, but you can Google him, and if you Google, and you're going to learn a lot about Jamaica, like even where I'm from, Alcan, our backside, it's not just about, as I said, Bob Marley and Usain Bolt. There's a lot in Jamaica, considering like a country with less than 3 million people there. I think there's more Jamaicans abroad than there are left at home. But when it comes to the brand, last year when it was our 60th anniversary, we had the Eiffel Tower that was lit up in the Jamaican colors. Okay. We had Niagara Falls that was lit up in the Jamaican colors. So outside of Jamaica, people are like, they just love Jamaica.
Well, as I said, it brings me back to like my childhood, and I remember, any time Mad Sinclair would come on TV. That's Mad Sinclair, and then it was Shirley Ralph. Mm-hmm. So these are people now who are on, mainstream TV, but they just identify that's the Jamaican. There was some times too back maybe in the late 70s, early 80s, and every Sunday morning there used to be Oliver used to come on TV.
Yes.
And
Right.
people would identify it because you're
Yeah.
getting some exposure, and it, we look at it and I look back at it now and saying, as a youth, to say that, what, how important is it for us to see people that look like us, talk like us in the media, because then, well, I want to aspire. Where before it's like there was really nothing there and, you just have to listen or watch to what's, put in front of us.
But that's because you grew up in Quebec, okay? But in Ontario, like you're in Jamaica. Like I grew up in Ontario, in Toronto. We eat Jamaican food. I mean, like the surrounding in Toronto is, as I said, is like you're a Jamaican in Toronto as opposed to if you feel like an immigrant. So I grew up like Mrs. Lou. So the older generation, we used to listen to the radio, Miss Lou, okay? And even I was very honored. I was a part of the Jamaica's 50th anniversary, and I'm actually in the book for when Aki met codfish. And it's a book that was done in Ontario, and when you look at the people that are in it, I mean, you have Donovan Bailey, you have Mrs. Lou, you have Michael Lee Chin, right? And there are a few people. Pat Dillon is in that book. I think Noel Alexander, but most of the representatives in that book are from Ontario. Right, and there's only, I think, there are only 270 or something people that was represented from Canada, and these are all just Jamaicans that contributed positive to Canadian Jamaican culture.
Okay, wow. Well, people, as I said, you're listening to Brian Smith here. We are part of the Scale Up Project. This is our podcast going to be discussing money and finance. We have Mr. Audley Coley here, who's also a mental health advocate. He is a professional dancer. He wears so many different hats. Audley, thinking about it, who introduced you to money? And I would more so, did anybody ever tap you on the shoulder and say, Audley, hold this, but make sure you don't waste it or whatever the case is? What was your introduction to money and finance and money, and I'll call it financial management?
Well, financial management, I think it was pretty instinctively, because I said, I'm from Mandeville.
Country.
Why you have to do that? Anyways, yeah, the country. But you see, being from the country also, Mandeville is known in Jamaica as a financial hub. Okay? Because when you tell people that know Jamaica that you're from Mandeville, one of the first things that come out of your mouth, oh no, rich. Which is true because we're exposed to a different level of finance. We're not trying to get water. We have running water, we have electricity and all the above. So it's while being in Jamaica and my family, my godfather, who's Mr. Powell, was agricultural minister in Mandeville, and his cousin is Colin Powell. Okay, so
and who is Colin Powell, sir? Some people do not know. Well, is that's the very high-ranking military guy there in the United States?
Yeah, the most decorated was a general or so at the time in the U.S. Mm-hmm. So I was always around people in Jamaica that, as a child growing up, that were financially literate. Right, so it's hard to say there was one particular, but then my dad's brother, who's actually Chinese, Ivan Lin, who used to have a racehorse. So most of the older people, like your uncle would know, Mr. Shaw would know Ivan Lin. Okay, so Mr. Shaw would know Ivan Lin and know that Ivan Lin also ran something called Japan, okay, which is a gambling entity that we had in Jamaica. And he also had a racehorse called Bunny Blue Flag that was the best horse in Jamaica in 66, 67, which was called...
I'm gonna have to go and
No,
do my research, because I'm gonna call after. I'm calling mom and dad and asking.
Call all of them. You see, what I'm saying, you asked me a question, that's the line I'm coming from.
Yeah.
It's just because, I got into the arts, and artists are not considered like bright, especially when it comes to money and so forth. But then I was able to gravitate back to the likes of Michael Lee Chin and start to look at Jamaican people who have done well, as I said, financially, and those are the people that I gravitate to. So I guess, especially being in Canada, Michael Lee Chin would be more of a mentor.
But even going back before, we'll call them what we call it, the top of tops of the financial world. But even as a adolescent, were you just, were you just say you had your money, you spent it, you had fun?
No.
What was that about?
I guess I was more like you in a sense. I had a paper route.
Route. So some people don't know what a paper route is, people. So we have to let them know. You have to get up in the morning or the afternoon and deliver the newspaper from door to door.
So I think now that you're bringing it way back then, the best financial advice I had was when I had a paper. I was delivering the Toronto Star in Toronto, and I was going to quit the route because I couldn't play hockey, I couldn't play any sport. I had to deliver it after school, and one of the head guys from the Toronto Star came in home, sat down in the living room, and told me like the benefits of what it was like to get an early beginning on how to handle having a business. And so my first business was literally being a paper boy and delivering paper, and that's how that guided me, pretty much, as I said, through my life.
As simple as you bring that up, right? But I mean, having your own business, because, as I said, I remember from maybe I was 10 years old, I had a paper route. So
there you go.
One thing is that, originally I remember we had to actually go to the depot and get the papers. I had a wagon, then we had to bring it and deliver it. But then afterwards, when you got your established route, then whatever, the supervisor would come in a truck and drop the papers at your house.
Off, yeah.
And then you would now go and deliver it. But also, you had to, one, get up in the morning, so that's discipline. 2, you had to deliver your papers on time.
Yeah.
3, at that time, you had to actually go now, during the week now and collect the money.
So they just drop it off to you like a store, okay? And you have to sell the product, collect the money, okay? And then give it back to the newspaper. Then you get your money or whatever at the end. So you are already developing, as I said, a habit, okay? Right? Because
don't forget now the customer service aspect of it, because most of the money that you would get would be from the tips.
Exactly.
So you had to make sure that, in the wintertime, the paper wasn't wet. You would bring the paper sometimes, and I can remember this too as well. I'm 12, 13, and I remember a couple of my buildings, I had to go up maybe 3 or 4 flights of stairs. And sometimes, it's early in the morning. Yeah. You want to maybe go up one flight and just throw the paper up, and then sometimes it would scatter. Yeah. And you think about it that, what would be the difference now if you brought the paper and just put it in front of the door? So I would notice that just getting the paper delivered on time and it's not wet, that you get better tips.
Well, this is, as I said, the bonus. When around Christmas time, you'd get an envelope, and that's you, and it's because of that extra little service, because it's on time, and people like it's right there. So I'm not even thinking about it, but I said, you now just literally jarred a memory, because it wasn't about, like I said, now Michael Lee Chin or, Warren Buffett. I already started that, and when you look back, Conrad Black, all the greats had paper routes, right? So you already start with that discipline, and then it's easy to apply it later on in life, Like even people used to complain about working at McDonald's, but McDonald's is one of the best startup job that you could have.
Yeah, it's really amazing how all these things apply. So let's kind of do a fast forward up until today. So how do you manage? So you're in a situation, you work, you have family, kids, grandkids, all these things. You're a senior. You're supposed to be, what did they say there? You're living your best life. Or that's what they call it? Living your best life. But nothing really moves in, I'd say, the world, specifically here in North America. Nothing moves without money. There's money, the equipment we got here, the shirts you got on, everything is money, 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 money here. I mean, are there financial pressures? I mean, as I said, people are supposed to be taking care of you. That's kind of the mentality. You get to senior's age, and somebody or the system is supposed to be taking care of you. How do you manage?
Well, by the grace of God, let's put it this way. I lie down there for a while and waiting for my kids or somebody to take care of me. And then when I realize it's not going to happen, I better roll up, and get back to the gym, and I'm glad that, as I said, health is wealth. Okay? Because, as I said, you have to read my book, Oddly Enough, see where I was, to see where I am right now. So every day I get up, I'm major grateful. I just got here. I just taught 2 classes at the Atwater Club. Big shout out to the Yummy Mummies at the Atwater Club, right? And I'm living my best life in a sense right now because I just got nominated for CanFit Pro, motivational wellness professional of the year in Toronto. Okay, and so it seemed like I'm being, everything old is new again, right? But it has a lot to do with your mental state and, stop, like whatever, yesterday was yesterday. As Janet Jackson said, what have you done for me lately? And literally, I had to change my mind to realize that nobody's going to do anything for me. So I got to go there. I got to teach a class. I got to do a fundraiser, okay, because I'm going to Jamaica next month. And I'm literally raising funds, teaching class or cooking food and selling it, just like old school, where I can make some money to go celebrate my mom's life. Because, as my dad used to say, God, people don't beg bread. Mm-hmm. So I feel, I don't know.
But where did that come from? Because, some people, it's like, not going to say that they're dependent on the system, or they just, I don't know, are they lacking the motivation? Maybe they don't have this entrepreneurial spirit, but, you see something and say, okay, I want to get there. So, okay, for me to get there, one, I'm going to need money. I have to purchase a ticket. You're going to Jamaica. It has to come from somewhere. Nobody is handing you a golden parachute to say, Audley, don't worry about it. Do what you want to do. Somebody's going to fit the bill for you. Where I'm hearing is that, whatever you do, everything that you're doing, you're going to take care of it, or you're going to play a major role in it, where sometimes a lot of people, they got that hand out and say, you know what, like, can you help me?
As I said, I thank my parents. My dad was a police officer in Jamaica. My dad, at one point, worked at Alcan. He was at the post office in Jamaica, in Mandeville. He worked all the time. Mm-hmm. I never saw my dad on unemployed. I never saw both my parents never collected welfare. I came from a very work-orientated family. And it's just in my DNA that usually, as I said, if you want something done, you got to get up and do it.
Yeah.
And I really, I should say, thank my mom and my dad for instilling that in me. I can't speak for anybody else, but I realized that, as I said, I'll be 65 if God spare my life in December. And mentally, I feel obviously younger, right? And it's an energy. So I know I have to do certain things. And I look at, okay, what do I need? I need X amount of dollars to do this, okay? as I said, Dad, my father always said, God, people don't beg bread. But I can create a situation. I have a talent. I can dance. I can cook. So I can cook a food and sell the food. When I get the money, I apply it to my trip and stuff like that.
Okay, so
Right.
you're very, very resourceful, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
think a lot of people listening on this think, you have to really start to take control of, your situation, because I mean, you can't control somebody else's situation. You can control your situation. I know, Audley, you also have you call it Coley's Corner, where people come in, they speak to you. I don't know if it's as far as with therapy or discussions,
Yeah.
or people are going through some challenges. And I just wanted to know, money, is that one of the top concerns when somebody comes to you? Or is there a money connection to say, I can't pay my rent?
No, of course, of course. It's funny. I just had this discussion with a friend just recently about, because I teach at the Atwater Club in Westmount, okay? And a lot of people that are challenged with mental health or whatever, because they have finance, they can afford like top of the line services, whether it be therapists, hospital, medication. But when you are, when you're challenged with finance and you have people in your family that have mental health issues, that is a major pressure point. And especially in the Black community, I offered a pro bono at the Jamaican Association, where on Thursdays, since about January, I got back from Jamaica, people would come and would have a one-on-one, and they'd come and they'd discuss, their needs. And yes, number one is money, because if they had certain finance, it would help their situation. Okay, so even for myself right now, I had to step away from the association because, as I said, the passing of my mom in in April, and then also Egbert, and I found I was having challenges emotionally myself. So you can't give what you don't have. So I'm just right now kind of repairing myself before I can go back out and be, be a major help.
Okay, and it's people, you just mentioned Egbert, and Egbert Gay, he was the founder of the Montreal Community Contact, who tragically passed away from a heart attack on June the 4th. So condolences to Egbert and his family. As I said, it was like, part of the fabric was ripped out of the Montreal community. And, it's going to be tough to move on from that. But, people, we have to keep on going. And, even Egbert, too, he was a very strong advocate for financial literacy and financial empowerment. Oddly, seniors, our Black seniors, those who are, I would say, maybe living close to the poverty line, or for what it is, like I see so much pressure which is there that, they're living, pension to pension or whatever supports that they have. Even those who the people have worked their whole life, and it's like, now you're supposed to be in your glory years and you're struggling, and, there's the whole shame aspect for some people because you're not supposed to beg people anything or ask for help. I mean, what can be done? Because, as I said, it's sad when you see some people that you want to help them, but even sometimes too, when you want to help, then they expecting that that handout is supposed to be there forever. I mean, what can we do with that situation?
Well, you just said a mouthful, because as I said, after being, I guess, a Bell Canada rep. I just finished 5 years with Bell Canada.
5 years. Tell them what you were doing for Bell Canada, or what you're still doing for Bell Canada.
Well, let's put it this way. Because of the original book, Oddly Enough, You Can Soar Above Mental Health, it was introduced to Bell Canada, and so Bell chose me as one of their reps. I mean, Clara Hughes was the main rep in the
Who
beginning.
was Clara Hughes?
Clara Hughes was an Olympian in two. She's
Speed skating and bike
and cycling.
Cycling, yeah.
And Clara Hughes had some challenges with depression, but she was able to work through it and be a major example. So she set the bar, right? But so when she stepped back, they needed, I guess, a whole team to try to replace her because they had a different group of people that came in from different areas, parts of Canada. And I was one of them from Montreal, especially as a Montrealer, a black man, So, and basically their agenda was showing that mental health affects like everybody in every group. So I became like a face of mental health. And a lot of people in the especially the black community reached out to me, and so I was there, and as I said, I did as much as I could. But to really answer your question, as I said, there's a lot of people who are ashamed and they won't come for help. But once they realize that, all of these people are coming out now, Prince Harry, you have Pink, you have the Olympians, you have the tennis players, you have the hockey players, the basketball players, Carey Price, right? So now it seems that it's more accepted because these major athletes are coming out. But the only difference is these guys have major money. Okay, but so if you are, especially a senior or an elder in the community, and you are having struggles, there's nothing in place to help them financially. And Bell Canada has a program, but you have to apply for it. And if you're in a community, and you can go on to Bell Let's Talk website, and especially for caregivers, you can get, Bell has monies that are out there. But you have to apply, okay?
That thing is handed to you, right? It doesn't fall from the sky.
You have to apply and fit the criteria. Okay. So that's why, as I said, like, as you and I do it, is that I can go to the Jamaican Association and I can give free mental health advice. But at the end of the day, it would be nice if you could give them a check.
Oh, well, yeah, money is always nice. Audley, is the mentality still there for somebody who's coming up from the islands? You're going to come and live in, whether it's Canada, US, UK, or wherever. And then once you hit retirement, you're going back home to live. Is that still the dream,
Yeah.
or is it a fallacy?
It's not a fallacy, and it's still the norm, because nobody comes to Canada with the intention that this is it.
This is it?
Okay, because my mom came up, it was supposed to be, I think, for 2 years.
2 years.
Okay, right? And, just 60 years or almost, and, so the idea is that you're going to come over here, you're going to get some money because you get this, as I said, fallacy, this dream that you just come up here and then life is simple.
Milk and honey,
but when you come over here, you spend most of the time sending money back home. So by the time you do decide to retire, you don't even have anything really to go back, so.
But here's something, and I think it does happen. It's not a joke, but I mean, you hear stories. All right, you come here, you work. So you have the family home, you send back money home, you're building up your house at home. Then you retire, you go back now. Now the person who was watching the house, they come back and they say, where you coming from? What you want?
Well, exactly.
You furnish this house. Yeah. You're paying for the house. The person who's watching the house, you come back now to relax.
They will kill you. They will kill you.
Yeah, real talk.
Because I mean, we don't have even to go there. Look at what just happened to Usain Bolt the other day, right?
Yeah.
So it's just this whole thing of you have an idea and you freeze your butt off. You do all kind of Joe jobs, right? But all you see, you go down to Jamaica, Western Union or whatever. Everybody's there waiting for the check. When is the money coming? And you can't tell. But sometimes I can't blame some of the people in Jamaica because some people love to show off too much and go home a bling bling. They borrow money to go down there and a bling bling to make like it seem like life is so great here. So, yeah, they give the impression that things are great, so, they expect that. So you can't just blame the people back home because a lot of them are going there and giving them this impression that everything is great. And it's not, right? It's the real.
Wow. I mean, people, as I said, this is Brian Smith here. I'm talking for the Scale Up Project put on by the Multicultural and Diversity Project. We're here talking to Audley Coley about financial empowerment and, part of his journey and his story.
Money, I just want to make a big shout out to you and Mark Henry and Sharon and all the people for Jamaica Day last Saturday because with all of the confusion in the last year or two, I myself was really, really impressed with what took place in the park. The weather and just like, as I said, from a visitor's point of view, I was very, very proud to be in the park as a Jamaican and, the Jamaican National and just.
Well, as you mentioned, Jamaica National, I mean, once again, too, we're talking about money and finance, and they were there advertising and, they're looking for people to invest in Jamaica. There's opportunities there to invest in Jamaica. So here we're talking about financial literacy and financial empowerment. And, we always don't want to, it seems that sometimes, when we're talking about our community, people want to hear about the doom and the gloom. But here we are talking about opportunities and the positive stories. And you've mentioned, Michael Lee Chin and his story too. He was out there, as a salesperson. I believe he was selling insurance and just built up his business. So these things can be done. Sometimes we have to put in a little bit more work because, there are certain inequities that exist in our society, but we got to put in the work. But then also, too, we have to, the magic word in our community is that we have to strategically find ways how we can work together. I think, a lot of people have that energy and that drive, but everybody's working in these silos where we could say, what can we do? How can we break down that mentality to say, let's look at the community, or let's even look at the family as an economic unit, rather than, okay, you get a certain age and you move out, then you're going to rent an apartment and money's just leaving, rather than in certain cultures where it's encouraged for the family to stay together as much as possible, build up some wealth, purchase property, and carry that over from generation to generation so that you're owning things. Because sometimes in our community, we have the money, but the money's always leaving the community, and we're sending other kids to college, other kids to school. We're building up other people from other communities, their businesses, when we should be building up our own.
Well said. And as I said, also, big shout out to all those guests that you had. You had the chief of police, as I said, all the politicians. And it's the sun, the weather was amazing. And, as I...
The MC was amazing. The MC was amazing.
The MC...
Got to plug myself,
No, but the whole idea is like, we're much... United we stand, divided we fall. And as I said, as a unit, as Jamaicans, because if somebody does something good in the community, we can big it up. And if somebody does something negative, we have to own it. So that's why it's so, there's a lot of us doing amazing thing, Otis Grant, Denberg, and all of that. Right?
Well, so if Denberg hears this, Denberg, I have a bone to pick with you.
I don't know about to start, hey, brethren. You see that? I'm shouting, I'm bigging up.
This is the podcast, so we put it out there.
Listen, I'm bigging up people, okay? I don't want to get in the middle of anything, okay? All I'm saying is that in this community, we have a lot of strength. There's strength in
yeah,
numbers, all of the
exactly,
above.
exactly.
Right? And when you see that Jamaican flag, you see the reggae girls, you know, you see the reggae boys. And every time we're out there doing something on an international scale, we're Jamaicans, okay? So in Montreal, you know, there's so much there. And when you put it together, we're forced to be reckoned with. And, you know.
That's true. That's true. I think the magic, not the magic word, but is the way that, you know what, how can we get that unification, not just on Jamaica Day, but always? Because as I said, if we're doing this 365 days a year, there's a lot of powerful things that can take place, you know. And I see that recently, a lot of people, you know, recent retirees, they're coming around. How can I get involved? I'd like to give back. I'd like to do this. I'd like to help out. And one of the things, though, is to the organizations need to position themselves to receive people who want to volunteer and give their time, because sometimes the structure is not there to train, to educate, form, you know, we form and prepare the volunteers.
It takes what is a village?
A village.
Okay? And when an elder dies, you lose a library. And speaking of an elder that just passed away this week, and my heart goes out to Susie, Ethel Bruno, a great friend of mine who they call her Miss Swing, she is a legend here in the city. And I had the privilege of spending a little bit of time with Susie this week. And, you know, as I said, my condolences and my heart goes out to the whole dance community at large. And this is what's happening. You know, we have Egbert, you know, now we have, as I said, Ethel Bruno, Mrs. Swing, that just passed away this week. And, you know, that's why it's so important that we're all connected, you know?
Very important, and, very important.
Right, so I'm just, as I said, being here and being in a position where I have a voice in the mental health, and and money, it makes a big difference because we have to do funerals, we got to do this, so it's important to make money. I mean, and that's why I love Brian, because everything that Brian Smith stands for, you know, he has his event that he's been doing for how many years now?
Yeah, we're going to be doing, you know, God's willing, 2024 will actually be our 14th year.
Okay, money, you know, so like, you know, especially for young people or even older people in the community, I mean, Google these things, you know, they do have these situations that are offered. And as I said, a lot of people, whether mental health or money, you're just shy or you just whatever, you know, just reach out.
It's important because, you know, even with all of these events, right, I mean, it's the summertime and, you know, we had Jamaica Day. Unfortunately, we did not have the carnival here in Montreal. That's another situation which I have various bones to pick with various people. But once again, that's another podcast. but there's all these community days and things like that. As I said, it's important that, you know, we really realize, you know, what we have in our community, and, you know, to challenge everyone. I mean, I could say I could challenge everyone, organizations, individuals, that we could do better. You know, I look at it, as I said, the society is not fair. I mean, you know, we've gone through a various bunches of challenges. There's obstacles that are put in place. We live in Quebec here too. Sometimes there's situations, well, not sometimes, but there are challenges there for the English-speaking communities that are there. And, you know, that kind of split us apart too as well. You see where resources are allocated from time to time. So we have to build partnerships, alliances, and move forward. But also, too, everybody else is trying to get their piece of the pie or getting a bigger piece of the pie, right? That. I look at that as human nature, that, you know, you want to survive. You want to make sure you're well fed. If the other person ain't well fed, your other community, well, you know, that's their problem. You got to look out for number one. There's nothing wrong looking out for number one, but within our community, there's never been as I said, there's no golden handshakes. And then sometimes, too, those who are the benefactors, they don't share the information, or they're that word we look for. There are certain gatekeepers in our community that don't want to share information. And I think that's a tragedy, too, at the same time, specifically when it comes to money and finance. And we're talking about government grants. And, I've been in situations where I had to go to Toronto to get financing for projects because the people here in Montreal didn't want to share the information. So, if you're somebody listening out there too, and you're looking for government grants and resources, you got to really take it upon yourself to, one, inform yourself, but then two, this is real talk. Sometimes you could fill out so many grant proposals and things like that, but if you're not part of that decision-making circle, you could be writing grants for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, you're still not going to. You still might get refused because you're not part of that decision-making circle.
But also, just to interject, money, Brian. There's a lot of people out there with deep pockets, okay, and
True.
they got okay. I'm challenging those people with deep pockets and have all kinds of money and they don't know what to do with it, okay. We have one of the most productive food banks at the Jamaican Association, okay? Okay, all you got to do is call up and check up. The food bank at the Jamaican Association feed more non-Jamaicans.
Non-Jamaican, a lot of Ukrainians, a lot of Ukrainians,
You check, okay, so the Jamaican Association Food Bank feeds more non-Jamaicans than Jamaicans, okay? So there's a lot of you who want to feel sympathy for this one and that one, but if you send your money to the Jamaican Association, it is going to good places. It's helping out the Ukrainians. It's helping out the community at large. And at the top of that, too, the Jamaican Association is looking for a building. Okay. So if you guys out there with your deep pockets and you don't know what to do with your money, send it to Mark Henry.
Mark Henry, okay.
Because we're looking at a building, and we do have a date, okay? Right? So it's one thing to be filling out grant, but there's a lot of people that have deep pockets. So
that's
I know,
true.
Brian, you're from the grant and write and grant. Me, I'm not begging money. I am challenging people.
But not everybody is privileged to your social circles, Mr. Coley. But here's something I'd like to ask you though. How? Because this is, people see Coley with this person and that person, and how did you, as a youth from Jamaica, Toronto, come to Montreal? How did you get into those social circles? What was your power, to talk about the power of networking? How did you put yourself into those, get into those social circles? Because people would sit around, how do you know that person? How do you know that person? What's the secret? What's the secret, Coley?
How long have you known me?
Like 20 plus years,
okay.
Maybe.
So if you Google me or whatever, I came here as a dancer. I was not in the so-called black community. I was not in the community.
You were but I think, Coley, people have seen you as what's the word? An eccentric. The guy, he's a professional dancer.
No. But you see, you have to remember, I was in the dance world when I came to Montreal, so I was not in the Jamaican or the black community at large. It's only when I went mad, when I had a mental health breakdown, I really ended up in the black community.
Okay.
So a lot of people that saw me, all they see was this madman. So they didn't know where I came from. The only person that could really be here and rest his soul is Prezi.
Noel Alexander.
A university background that I went to Concordia and I studied fine arts. So, the finance, I lost it and then I got it back. So when I got it back and I started teaching, right? Okay, and then I ended up in, teaching all at Concordia and all over. You know, and now I'm at the Atwater Club. At the Atwater Club, as you said about networking, you know, you have people like Andrew Molson. You have all of the
because Coley, you're there with Molson, then they see you with Oriel, then they see you with, then they see you with.
You're asking me how I got. You're asking me how I got there. It was through my background as a professional dancer, then turned now. I'm a certified fitness instructor, okay? So because of my working in dance and fitness, the people that gravitate to dance and fitness are people with money. And then when they see what you do for them, because if I was not able to do something for these people, they would not have me around.
True. That's very true. That's very true.
They invite me to golf tournament. Then I get to go to polo. So the fact is that
So Coley, people listen to that. They're talking about polo. They may be thinking about a polo shirt. That's polo. That means you're on a horse and you have a stick and you're knocking a ball.
Yeah,
that polo.
This
the real polo.
As Churchill said, polo is the game of kings. Okay?
Yes.
Right? So, and if you Google polo in Jamaica, we have polo in Jamaica because the royals would go down there and play polo. See, not everybody's from Trenchtown, okay?
Yeah. So you're talking high society stuff. You do Coley. Do you also but Coley? Do you also do skeet shooting too?
All right, okay. No, I don't do ski shooting. Okay, golf. Polo, a little bit of yachting and stuff like that. But, you know. But if you Google in Jamaica, everything is there.
That's true. That is very true.
We're all, you know, have you ever swam with the dolphins?
No, sir.
Well, they have that in Jamaica. Okay?
Yeah, that's true.
So just because somebody come over here and they were brought up in a certain area, that doesn't mean if you Google a certain part of Jamaica, you'll be shocked to find out what is available in Jamaica.
Oh, that's true.
So to answer your question, the reason why I'm able to move with these people here in Montreal or high society is because in Jamaica, I am high society.
You are high society.
I also belong to the Manchester Club in Jamaica. So when I'm there, I play golf. Okay.
So networking is very, very, very important because, you know, as I said, not sometimes, you know, people are, I don't know if they're scared to talk to somebody or maybe they don't have the confidence to approach somebody who's in a different social circle. And, you know, or maybe we need to have, you know, what we call it, mixers or these social events where people could come together and you could at least talk to the person and maybe you can have an idea, share it with them. And because all of that stuff there too is part of development. I mean,
but,
you know.
Well, you see, a lot of people, as you put it right, they get intimidated. Right? And so I talked to a Jamaican man, and you say, it's polo shirt, well, you got water polo. And then they make me feel bad because I'm moving in the circle, right? And then when I try to introduce you, because if you want to get to where you're dealing with finance. If you want to deal with Michael Lee Chin, you go to a polo match. Okay, for instance, I introduced a few people to polo last year. Our friend, big shout out to Charles, who's now a member at the Jamaican Association. Because I brought him to polo, right? And Charles also was a donor at the Jamaican Association Food Bank. So this is how it works. So if you don't go to those places, you're not going to. You have to.
Yeah, and as I said, once you meet those people or organizations, you've got to also continue to nurture that relationship because, unfortunately, I see sometimes that the relationship sometimes within the organizations is that, they see it as a one-time thing. They get a donation or they get some money or they get some money. And it's
you gotta follow up.
But they kind of like cut it off. And sometimes to no fault of their own because they don't know any better. But then the person who, gave you a donation and they're maybe waiting to hear back from you. How was the donation used?
But look what
Maybe
happened with us last year. Because of Charles coming, giving a donation, I brought him from Polo, we end up at the military base.
Exactly.
Okay?
Yeah.
So it's a continuation. But it's up to you once thanks to Charles, I'm also a volunteer up at the military. So you're always interacting, and it takes nothing for you to walk up to the military base or call and go, what's going on? Okay? So
you got to treat people good. I mean, with respect, and sometimes hello, how you're doing. Inform them, because these donors, whatever foundations, they're run by people who are human beings too as well. So it's important that you have those relationships, nurture those relationships with them, and keep it going. People, you are listening to Brian Smith. I am here at the CDA, the Community Digital Arts Hub, created by the English Language Arts Network, and we are doing our podcast series with seniors talking about money, finance, and everything that's good with that. I'm with Mr. Audley Coley. And Mr. Coley, as we wrap up, some words of wisdom for the seniors in our community and how they could maybe improve their situation, their financial situation, some small steps that they could take to kind of, maybe if they're in a rut, what can they do to help themselves?
Well, first of all, back to Jamaican Association again, because during the pandemic, we started a program where I was in charge of reaching out to the seniors, just checking up on them, call them up and so forth. And we had a program that we got a little funding for to do a cooking show and exercise. Okay, so they had to all get iPads and
get online.
Get online. Yeah. So it's just to maintain that, whether it be the Jamaican Association or other associations, but just as I also did some classes with WIPCA, and it's just like that. I just kind of got burnt out because it's there. They want to stay engaged. So the fact is that they have the associations or whatever associations out there have to make them feel welcome. And if they can't physically get up and go to these associations, somehow they can reach them through Zoom or even physically go and visit, because at this, especially now, that we can actually see people physically, there's nothing wrong with 2-3 people going and visiting a shed-in. Because unfortunately for people like Mrs. Flemings and just people in general that used to get around and they can't get, they love when you just show up and just sit there and have a visit with them.
Yeah. We're all going to get old one day, Some of us sooner than later, but
you start doing what you'd want people to do for you.
It's as simple
because if I'm lying in a bed all day, man, and you come and come by and so
makes you feel good. Makes you feel good.
That is what I'd like to leave, is especially to the youngsters or even the ones that are still able-bodied. Call somebody. Go visit them, right? Okay, it's gold right now. That's finance, because as my motto is, health is wealth, and I am glad that I am healthy enough that I can still go out. And if I call somebody, I don't hear from them, I'm going to go knock at their door and check up on them.
Okay. People, this is Brian Smith. We are here once again, as I said, the Scale Up Project, the Multicultural and Diversity Project, our seniors podcast. It's been a pleasure speaking with Mr. Audley Coley.
Facebook,
we're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and as I said,
Oddly enough.
Yes, plug the book.
Oddly enough. Go on, as I said, and check out my background, and you'll see, never give up, because I'm a living proof that I could have gone the other side, and here I am. So, all right.
Okay, people. This is Brian Smith.
Job protection.
Job protection, people. One love, as I said. And if you're listening to this podcast, please share it with a friend or even with your enemies. We want to get the word out on financial education and financial empowerment. This is Brian Smith. One love. We are out.